Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Did you know you can support the channel by joining? If you enjoy the videos, it's something to think about. On to the stories. This is my channel's weekly compendium, ending Monday, December 12th, 2022. Case file number 861, written by Avengion 619. The mysterious case of a vanishing passenger. Last night, I was online picking up people throughout the night for my rideshare gig, all the way to the early morning. One particular ride, I picked up two ladies. I greet the women, and they reply, and we alternate asking how the night has been and so on. The passenger directly behind me mentioned she just got out of a toxic relationship and had a few drinks, but she does not drink that often, so she could not keep up with her friends. I respond and wish her well. Her friend chimes in and she thanks me. I can make out both silhouettes of the ladies in my rearview mirror, but I can clearly see the passenger behind me through my side view mirror and because of outside lighting from the streetlights. The two passengers are making indistinguishable conversation. I also have my stereo playing in only the front speakers to give passengers that do not want to chat a little bit more privacy and quiet, while I still get music to get me through long drives over dark nights. I make a follow-up question and get no response, so I leave the ladies to their mumbling conversation. I continue to drive and the map is acting weird, to which I speak up and ask if I follow left or right up ahead because the navigation is showing contradictions. Again, I get no response, and at this point, their conversation had stopped, which I assume they were both passed out or something. Finally, we get to the destination and I say, "Here we are, ladies, home and safe," with a bit of a volume in case they have been passed out. Both voices thank me, and the rear driver's side door is opened, and the ladies exit and thank me as well as wish me a good night. I wait for the ladies to clear the vehicle, and I only see one in sight who proceeds to walk in front of my vehicle towards her apartment that has a street driveway parking with a cement ramp off the sidewalk into the street. There was nothing else within 40 to 50 feet all around us as it was about 3 a.m. in a residential area, so I was just barely to the right side of the road. In a nutshell, I saw two women enter my car, I conversed in a group with two women with different voices, different tones. I could sense two other bodies sitting behind me, even the weight of two bodies shifting when making a turn. And then, at the destination, there was only one passenger. Creepy file number 69, written by I Am Lazang, Unwanted Visitors. We moved into a suburban house in the southern US a few years back. When the pandemic hit, I found myself working remotely. It was great since I spent more time with my family and didn't have to spend 2 hours in traffic each day. However, being home a majority of my week exposed me and my family to a variety of strange encounters that have only escalated throughout the years. Early in the world event, we got a knock on the door mid-morning. I was in the meeting, but I heard my partner open the door. I could tell by the voice it was our next-door neighbor, an older woman who lived alone. She was in the process of moving and had stopped by every day or so to give us a few odds and ends that she didn't want to take with her. However, within seconds, my partner called my name with a worried tone. I excused myself from the meeting and head over to our landing, which is open to the front door below. Both my partner and the neighbor look slightly panicked. "Neighbor, says there's a strange man sitting on our back wall. What do we do?" For context, my house is on a greenbelt. There's about 500 yards of woods and field until you hit a 4-lane road and a small shopping plaza. Our back wall is smooth, concrete, and about 6.5 feet high. The ground on the greenbelt side is sloped, which ends up making the wall about 7 feet high in effect on the greenbelt side. A taller person with considerable effort could probably scale it. I initially think there's no way someone is up on the wall right now. But sure enough, as I run downstairs and look through the backsliding glass door, there's a middle-aged man smoking a cigarette, with both feet hanging onto my yard. He's kind of lazily staring at the back of mine and my neighbor's houses. My adrenaline starts to kick in. My kids' swing set and toys are in the backyard. I hate confrontation, but I seem to be automatically moving to open the back door, My partner asks what I'm doing. I open the door and step out onto the porch and start walking across the yard. As I get closer, I can tell the guy is bugging out and probably homeless. He notices me when I get about 6 feet from him. I'm trying to stay calm and not escalate. "Hey man, what are you doing up here?" He gestures around him. "Enjoying the view." I interrupt. "Yeah, you gotta get down and go somewhere else." He just kinda stares at me and swings a leg over the other side but stays put. "Please, get the hell off my property," I say more forcefully this time, trying to hide any wavering in my voice. Yeah, okay." He slides the other leg around and jumps down, disappearing from view. Never saw this person again, thankfully. A few months later, I'm working from home. My partner and kid are gone, so I'm alone. There's a knock at the door. Usually I ignore them unless I'm expecting someone. Most of the time it's either Amazon or a solicitor. They usually knock once and then take off. However, this person leans onto the doorbell and knocks again. Annoyed, I leave the office to go see who it is. I make my way to the door and I can hear a muffled conversation taking place on the other end before I can look through the people. I look and see 4 people all dressed like they're heading to a business lunch. 2 men in their mid-20s, an older man, and a young woman towards the back that couldn't have been more than 20, maybe 21. I slowly open the door out of curiosity, and the older man immediately gets uncomfortably close and starts speaking forcefully in a language I don't understand. It takes my brain a moment to catch up. I can't understand," I start to say. He pauses and asks in English, "You can't speak Russian?" "No." Then there's a long moment where we kind of stare at each other. He looks like he doesn't believe me. Glaring, "Where is the nearest Russian church?" he asks, while the others stand silently behind him. I have no clue. I genuinely have no idea if such a thing exists in the southern US. He thanks me and then they all walk back to their nondescript sedan and take off. They did not stop at any other houses on the street. Case file number 862, written by Enigma Nix, driving a loop that doesn't exist. My brother was picking me up from the airport. I used to fly a few times a year from London to visit my parents, and he would usually be the one to pick me up. This time, he picks me up again. We're driving on the highway. It's a straight 4-lane highway. You pass 3 big cities before reaching my town. You don't drive through the cities. It's a freeway circuit, and there's absolutely nowhere you can turn as the highway has barriers on both sides and in the middle. You only drive off the highway just a few miles before reaching my town. So we're driving, and as we're approaching the 3rd city, which is on the left side of the highway, I called my mom saying where we were and that I'd be home in about 15 minutes. Literally 2 minutes later, we're seeing a big sign, "Airport," and we're both like, "What the hell?" My brother had to stop on the side to get out and light a cigarette, totally freaked out and going, "What the hell just happened?" It almost seemed like someone had just picked up our car, turned it backwards, and we drove all the way back until reaching the airport again. We drove back home totally shaken and saw the whole scenery for a second time, trying to figure out if there was a slight possibility to turn off the highway somewhere, but there wasn't. The whole journey was spooky as hell, and the weird thing was, we only gained like 10 extra minutes off the journey, basically going back and forth 2 times. Case file number 863, written by Dear Ghouls. The notes that are written into Spacetime. I really cannot for the life of me figure this one out. Every now and then, I house sit for my sister. She has a pretty needy old dog, and I'm one of the people she trusts to watch him. I'm house sitting currently, and the last time I was at her place house sitting was August. Back in August, she had left cute sticky notes all over the house. One of them had been on the fridge and said, "Dear Ghouls, thank you so much for all the help. We love you so much. K.O. Sis." And there was another that she put on a bottle of wine that said, "Drink me." I threw the notes away back in August. Fast forward to 2 nights ago. I'm sitting at the bar with some friends, and one of them reaches down and goes, "Hey, I think this is yours." And it's one of the 2 notes. They had just been sitting on the floor under my chair at the bar. I have no idea how they got there. Some people suggested I'd put them in my pocket or purse and forgot that they fell out. But both my jacket and purse I'm currently using have been in storage at my mom's until last week when it got cold. I even called my sister and asked her if she had saved the notes from last time or written new ones. She said no, of course she didn't. I'm gonna be scratching my head over this one until the day I die. Case file number 864, written by Anonymous. When your wealth is linked to the universe. An extremely bizarre incident occurred with my credit card twice during these past few months. For background, I'm an expat living in Israel, but I have a US credit card that I use here regularly, and an Israeli debit card with a completely separate Israeli bank. So here's the story. A few months ago, I went to a pharmacy to buy some prescription meds and paid with my Israeli debit card. It wasn't a tap to pay, I had to insert the card into the chip reader. Despite paying with my Israeli card, I got a real-time notification that my American credit card was charged for the transaction. I checked my statement and it was indeed charged, but the Israeli card I used was not charged. I told myself that I must have accidentally held both cards stacked on top of each other and inserted them into the chip reader together, and I brushed it off. Today, I went to a different pharmacy, different company, and again went to pay for the transaction with my Israeli card. It was also a chip reader where you insert the card, not a tap-to-pay system. Again, I received a real-time notification for the transaction on my American credit card. This time I thought, hold up again? Let me see if I accidentally grabbed both cards and inserted them both. I looked at my gold Israeli debit card, as it was inside the chip reader device. Then I looked over and saw my silver American card tucked away in my wallet, at least 3 feet away from the card reader. When I saw my American card sitting in my wallet, the hairs on my neck stood up. The American card was charged again and the Israeli card was not. I was sure I only used the Israeli card this time. What the literal hell? I will reiterate that this was not tap to pay, and even if it had been, my American card was 3 feet away from the device sitting in my wallet, and it was charged after I inserted my Israeli card. I'm 100% certain of what happened. I double-checked like 3 times to confirm, and the cards are completely different colors, so it was very clear to confirm. I called my American bank to ask if it's possible for my Israeli bank to somehow hack my card or link it to my Israeli account without my consent. It sounded so bizarre to them that 3 customer service representatives hung up on me in a row. I'm no tech expert, but it seems impossible. These are 2 completely different financial institutions in different countries. Has something like this happened to anyone else here? Obligatory disclosure. I do not take drugs, not even marijuana, and have no history of schizophrenia or delusions. I was not sleep deprived, oxygen deprived, or dehydrated during these incidents, and the records still exist as to what happened. Bonus file, written by Marshall Dill 26. The Working Man Ghost. Ever since I was a kid, I've always had a fascination with the paranormal. I'm not sure how to word this, but I'll do my best. Anything paranormal caught my interest, but I also had a healthy amount of skepticism. This event made me a believer, though. One of my best friends had moved into a new place with his fiancée. I came over after they had been there for a few weeks, and we stood in his driveway just bullcrapping. From his driveway, you can see into the hall and all the way down to the bedroom. I looked over and saw a man in a Navy plumber's outfit walk into his bedroom. I looked over to him and asked if he was having work done. He looked very confused and said no. I was like, dude, I just saw a guy in a blue. Before I could finish my sentence, his fiancée butted in a freaking blue jumpsuit, I told you. Turns out she had seen the same guy a few days prior and my friend just laughed it off. We did some digging and sure enough, the guy that used to live there was one of the local plumbers. He died in the house. Case file number 865, written by Billy Vass Barker Warley, Riding the Wave of Time. First incident. Back in the early 80s, I was looking at an apartment. I had just looked at the empty living room, but quickly popped my head back in and out of the doorway on a whim. In that brief moment, I saw a room full of furniture. I looked again and it was empty. I ended up renting, and quite some time later, I walked into the living room and realized the furniture I had seen was my own, none of which I had at the time, as I slowly gathered it over a period of many months. The second incident. Shortly after I realized I saw my own furniture that day, I was sitting in the living room, same apartment, after a hard third shift, drinking a rum and coke while watching Popeye cartoons, when I heard what sounded like a large dog walking in the kitchen. The sound came to the living room, stopped for a good long moment, then resumed, walking back through the kitchen and suddenly stopping again. I got up and looked, feeling very weirded out by the noise, but nothing. I sat down to finish my drink, and a few minutes later I saw someone vaguely familiar dart their head around the doorframe and immediately pull it back. I yelped and jumped up, running into the kitchen, finding no one again. All doors and windows locked and chained, and no one hiding in a closet or under a bed. I chalked it up to alcohol and exhaustion. Several months later, a friend from work brought their dog over, which they had just got from their parents. I didn't even know they had a dog. It walked in and around the kitchen, then went into the living room for several seconds before re-entering the kitchen and walking out the back door. These were the exact same sounds I had heard months earlier, but experienced from the opposite side of the encounter. It then hit me. The face I saw at the doorway was my own. Since I was in my very early 20s, I chalked it up to possibly becoming unanchored in time. Case file number 866, written by Dead But Dreaming 13. No smoking. Almost 2 years ago, my wife and I took an 8-hour road trip to the desert to celebrate my birthday. Both of us were heavy smokers, and as a birthday gift to myself, I decided to quit. She wasn't as stoked as I was, but since it was my birthday trip, she agreed to let me hog the stereo on my way home, so I could listen to an audiobook called Easy Way to Quit Smoking by Alan Carr. The thing about this book is that the reader is encouraged to smoke while they read, or in my case listen to, the book, and only decide if they want to quit after they have finished. So we're driving and smoking and listening to this book while driving through the mountains of northern Arizona when we both hear a loud bang at the same time. I feel something hit my chest, followed by my left pectoral muscle getting really cold. I look down and see a puff of smoke coming from the left pocket of the flannel shirt I was wearing at the time. I was 100% sure I had been shot, so I instinctively put my hand under the shirt expecting to feel a bloody hole. But there was nothing there, just a cold patch of skin. So I felt around in the pocket of my shirt and pulled out a bunch of sharp plastic pieces. It took a few seconds to make sense of what had happened. The lighter I was carrying in that pocket had for no apparent reason exploded. The cold feeling came from the butane escaping, which I had mistaken for smoke. I had smoked for over 20 years and had never experienced the lighter spontaneously combust like that. My wife had never experienced it either, and the fact that it happened while listening to a book about not smoking anymore at the exact second I was thinking about lighting up another one makes the whole thing feel a little more like a miracle. Before you ask, this wasn't a high-quality disposable lighter like a Big. This was one of those transparent plastic ones you buy for 89 cents at the gas station, and I had probably used it to open several beers that weekend, so its structural integrity could have been questionable. Still, it's the timing that was pretty incredible. Also, while we continued to smoke for the rest of the drive, we finished the book about the same time we rolled into our driveway, and neither of us have had a cigarette since. Case file number 867, written by Pirates of the Butt, audio and visuals desynchronized in real life. Happened a few months ago and I've been meaning to post about it here since then, but I'm an expert at procrastination. I was driving in the rain for an extended period of time with the windshield wipers on at a constant speed. There's a distinct sound for when they're going up, as well as a kind of clunk sound when they change direction. Well, after a while, I noticed that the sound was starting to kind of lag behind what I was seeing, and the longer I left them, the more noticeable it got. I'd estimate the desynchronization got up to half a second at one point, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a pretty noticeable delay when it's between seeing something make a sound and actually hearing the sound. Basically the kind of delay you would expect from something 500 feet away, but in my case it was like 2 or 3 feet away, so like 0.002 seconds. Not something a human is going to be able to pick up on. The sound is coming from a mechanical source, not a speaker somewhere in the vehicle there for the purpose of making wiper sounds like some electric vehicles have speakers to replicate engine sounds. No glitch in any part of the vehicle could cause an auditory desynchronization like that. This is more like something I would expect to find in a GTA-type game, probably caused by the animation for wipers and the sound being coded to start at the same time and repeat until the wipers turn off. But the audio sometimes lags for a frame before repeating, which causes desynchronization after a long enough time. Personally, I would just code the animation to repeat and the sound to play every time the animation starts instead of having it repeat independently and hope the time syncs up correctly. But that's besides the point. Finding that in a game would be one thing, but in real life? I don't know how else to explain that, other than a glitch in reality itself. Case file number 868, written by Confused Confuzzled. Classic Quantum Immortality. Okay, so bear with me here. My husband and I were traveling back, a 6-hour drive, from visiting family. I was driving. I kept having a very vivid flash of a place pop into my head where an 18-wheeler loses control and we have a head-on collision. In this flash image, I see it coming, can't move out of the way, and just look at my husband and say, "Baby, I love you." To note, I am a very comfortable driver. This started pretty much as soon as we hit the road. We reach an intersection maybe 2 to 3 hours into the drive, and I recognize it from the image that popped into my head earlier. Exactly where that image showed the trailer truck hitting us head-on, I felt that the car suddenly jumped. Like, as if I had just lost control. I felt a bit woozy, and it felt like the car jerked forward. No accident happened, but it made me wonder. A friend once mentioned the possibility of dying suddenly and waking up, so to speak, as if nothing had happened. Like jumping into the next dimension. That experience on the road was weird. My husband noticed nothing. He insisted the car never jerked, nothing felt off to him, it was a normal drive. So did we dimensionally travel after a head-on collision into an exact or almost exact replica of our dimension? Bonus file, written by Booze and Booze, to Tyler, the best friend in the multiverse. I'm sure a lot of you reading this can relate to losing someone. I've definitely endured quite a bit of loss throughout my life, though this specific one hit harder than the ones before and has taken a while to come to terms with. In 2019, I received a phone call late at night from a close friend of mine. Levi wasn't the type to call, he was more of a texter. So when I saw his name flashing on my cell phone at 2 a.m., I knew it couldn't be good. I picked up the phone, walked out of my bedroom, and went into the next room to take the call so I wouldn't wake up my girlfriend and our newborn. I was told within the first 20 seconds of the call that there had been an accident and our friend Tyler was gone. I went from half asleep to wide awake in a split second. What? Gone? What the hell does that even mean, Levi? I got angry. I got pissed because I didn't believe him until he told me again that Tyler was gone. There was an accident when he was driving and he died. He told me himself and a few others of a friend group who were all at his house. He told me I could come over if I wanted to. After we got off the phone, I fell to the floor. I was in complete shock and disbelief. There's no way that this is happening. This isn't real. A few moments later, I went back into my bedroom, picked up my 4-month-old sleeping son, walked downstairs to sit in our recliner and just bawled my eyes out for hours. Tyler had been texting me that night. He asked me what I was up to around 9 or 10. Myself and my girlfriend were just on the couch playing Overcooked on the Switch. I had asked him the same about what he was doing. He responded that he was drunk, and I assumed he was just at his house or someone else's. He was a very social dude and loved to be out and about drinking with people. He was loved by many and a friend to all. I had removed myself mostly from that lifestyle because of getting into a serious relationship and having my first child. I had fallen asleep while we were messaging back and forth, and his last message read, "You winning?" I never thought to ask where he was or if he needed a ride. He wrecked his truck on the way home from the bar that night, just an hour or so after that last message was sent to my phone. The guilt of not asking him if he was okay and if he needed a ride or anything, just freaking assuming he was good. That guilt took over my life and consumed me to the point where I was now drinking heavily myself on a regular basis. whiskey every single night, blacking out to numb the pain and guilt. I almost lost my job. I stopped taking care of myself. Most importantly, I stopped being a good partner and father. My girlfriend at one point had her car packed with all her belongings and my son's, telling me to say goodbye to him as I was wasted sitting in my garage. Somehow, I was fortunate enough that she ended up staying and I slowly got my crap together. Fast forward to a few years later. Throughout this time, I would occasionally talk to Tyler, whether that be in my head silently or even out loud at times when I was alone, asking him to please tell me you're okay. Somehow find a way, please. I had come to terms with his death, but I didn't have that closure and reassurance still, if that makes any sense. I had a few dreams where I thought he was there, but it felt cloudy, and I would forget a lot, if not all of the details of said dream. However, a few months back I had another dream, one so real, so vivid about him. This is strange and hard to explain, but we are all giant nerds coupled with heavy levels of sarcasm within my friend group. Stupid, childish, immature, sarcastic humor is the norm. So when my dream started off with me and Tyler walking into a bathroom together and then both walking up to a toilet and seeing a huge log, we both started yelling, "Ooh," and dying of laughter. I know it's weird, but it was just us. Then all of a sudden, the back of the wall behind the toilet opened up like a door. The bathroom completely disappeared in front of us. The most amazingly beautiful scenery lay before me. Huge mountains, lush green grass, and gorgeous blue skies. Picture that first time in Breath of the Wild when Link walks up to the edge of the mountain and you get that first look of how beautiful that world was. Tyler turned to me and didn't say a word, but just looked at me. I knew instantly, without him even speaking, that he had to leave, go back into this place, and that I couldn't follow him. "You don't have to go, man. Please don't. Stay here for a little longer." I was pleading with him. He still said nothing, just smiled and walked into that world and kept eye contact with me as the door closed back up. The dream immediately faded to black and I woke up. Tyler was 27 when he left us. He was a great friend. We spent so much time together over the years, good times far outweighing the bad, and I could spend hours telling stories about the stupid crap we got into and somehow got out of. This is the first time I've told this story. I believe he visited me that last time to tell me he's okay. Tyler, I love you, man. I miss you every single freaking day. I cannot wait till we meet again, my friend. Case file number 869, written by J. Harris 666, The Mysterious Echo of Time. Had a very interesting morning on Wednesday, November 23rd. I usually get in the shower about 6 a.m., so I can be out the door on my way to work by 6:45. I lost track of time while working on a photo project and realized I was running late at 6:45 when I looked at the time on my computer, so I immediately went to the bathroom and began getting ready. I shaved my face and head, did my business, showered, dried off, and brushed my teeth. I stepped out of the bathroom and looked at the clock on the stove, and to my shock, it read 6:45. I thought that's odd. It was 6:45 when I started my morning routine. So then I checked the clock on my TV, my computer, and my cell phone, and they all said the same thing, 6:45. There's no way I did all that I did that morning in less than 60 seconds. Not possible. Time stopped for about 25 minutes. The second part of this happened while I was at work the same morning. I had a lengthy meeting in the morning full of slides, videos, tables, and graphs. The meeting itself was 4 hours. While sitting in the meeting, there was one part of the presentation that happened twice, almost like a déjà vu moment. We were discussing a specific slide on PowerPoint, and then moved to the next part of the presentation. But the next part of the presentation was exactly what we just discussed. He, my boss, even spoke the same words and showed the same graph. It was literally what just happened 5 minutes before, down to even minor details, everything. No one else seemed to notice but myself. It was almost like that moment in time repeated itself. Case file number 870, written by The Real Lady Boneyard. I was recognized from another world. This was truly unnerving. I was at a restaurant with my mother and sister, and as we were looking at the menu, I heard someone call my name. This is where it gets really odd. Usually, people who think you're someone else don't use your name and they'll say they're sorry they thought you were someone else. Is it impossible they called me by my name? Of course not. However, when I turned around to look at them, they didn't say, "Sorry, wrong person." They looked encouraged and repeated my name, then tried to jog my memory by telling me where we'd met. A workplace I'd never had any interaction with ever. I couldn't think of what to say, so I blurted out, "I'm sorry, but I don't know you." And they genuinely looked confused and left. Still as jarring as it was that day. Case file number 871, written by DJ Deja, my dad from another universe. This took place when I was 18 and my brother was 16, around 2003 or 2004, our childhood home in small town Wisconsin. This is where we grew up prior to our parents getting a divorce. At this time, both of us had left our mom's house in Washington State and went to move back home and live with our dad. Anywho, my brother was in the living room watching TV and I went into the kitchen. I saw my dad writing out a check to pay the bills. I had to do a double take. I noticed something was off about him. He was writing with his right hand even though I distinctly remember that he was left-handed. He was the only one in our family that was left-handed, so it always stood out to me. I asked him about it. I asked, "Dad, aren't you left-handed?" This caught my brother's attention. Our dad replied, "No, but I kick with my left foot when we're playing football and kickball. Maybe that's what you're thinking of." My brother and I looked at each other in disbelief. We had always had a strong psychic connection, and he looked as freaked out as I was after what we just heard. Sadly, my brother is no longer with us, but I mentioned this experience to my dad again recently. Turns out he's still denying ever being a lefty. Case file number 872, written by Mola Molasses, The Mystery of the Thin Straw. About 2 years ago, right before the pandemic, I was hanging out with a couple of my friends at a fast food place during our last year of high school. One of them orders a root beer float and brings it to our table. I remember seeing this tiny little dinky straw stuck through the ice cream. I was going to crack some dumb joke about how on earth did they expect her to drink frozen ice cream through that pinprick-sized tube, but she's already walked back towards the counter. At this point, I have no idea why she left, so I get up to follow her and see that she's asked for a plastic spoon in order to actually eat the float. The strange part, then, is when we get back to the table, the straw has just disappeared. I would usually chalk something like this up to just misremembering, but she then turns to me and says, "Wait, wasn't there like a thin straw in this?" I told her, yeah, I was literally going to make a joke about it. We looked around the table and seats in case the straw was propelled out by the carbonated root beer or something, but can't find it anywhere. It sounds incredibly dumb and insignificant, and when we mentioned it to our other friends, they just laughed it off like a joke. But honestly, this strange little experience still sticks with me. I'd like to imagine either the straw was transported to another universe, or we were transported to another identical universe with the exception of this one straw not existing. Hello folks, looks like my Santa hat arrived. Nice. Case notes for file 861. The mysterious case of the vanishing passenger. It seems like the anomalies start mid-ride, where you say that the conversation that you hear in the background sort of becomes muddied. And also, you lose navigational ability, sort of like you're in a transitioning phase along the drive. Curious though, because if this was a case of quantum immortality, normally the transition is seamless, or if you do remember something, it's actually the death that you remember, which is kinda hard to gloss over, I would say. The one thing I can think of is if it is a seamless transition, and maybe it wasn't a death exactly, it was just some random spurt from the universe, I think there's a lag period if the universe you're going to is far away. I think the closer it is, the more seamless it'll feel because it's just instantaneous basically. But if the universe you're going to is far away, then there's a time lag that creates this muddied effect. It might even explain the period of transition where people are stuck in limbo in worlds where no one exists at all. They're like in a temporary server that would be eliminated after their transition. This would indeed explain why there was only one girl at the end. There were two in the original universe, and then just one in the new universe. Case notes for the creepy file number 69. Unwanted visitors. I mean, the first part about the homeless man seems pretty benign overall, just some guy chilling out. Maybe homeless? I would have been cautious as well and definitely want him to leave. The second story is indeed more hilarious. Kinda reminds me sort of the story I read where there were a group of 4 people trying to sell vacuum salesmen, the Kirby vacuum salesman. In this case, it's just a group of very professional, faithful, devout Russian men. What a weird thing where these people are knocking on doors and they have a lot of character, I guess you could say. Yeah. Those are my notes for tonight. I hope everyone's enjoying the festive times. I know I'm playing a lot of holiday music myself. Always gets me in the mood. Can't wait for Christmas. Gotta set up my tree. If you'd like to get me a present, just leave a like on the video. It'll help a lot. Thanks. Case notes for file 862. Driving a loop that doesn't exist. So it is common in these car glitches to either go forward or backwards in time or space, typically not both together, which is an interesting glitch in of itself. Now all that said, if you can be pushed forward in time or in space, like if there's a wormhole and you're passing through it without realizing it's seamless, there's no visual cue to it, and then you're just ahead in space-time. No time has really passed. There's no reason why you couldn't do that the opposite way. A wormhole doesn't have to carry you forward in the vector of your travel. It could just be back or in a different place. You could appear in Australia, driving in the ocean. That would be unfortunate. Case notes for file 863. The notes written into the universe. So disappearing object phenomena can happen to anything. When an object simply is de-rendered, the universe loses track of it in a sense, of the data of where it's supposed to be. And it doesn't matter where they are, they could de-render even when they're out of sight, like in a landfill or something. And then they can reappear wherever the universe has connected it to be. And I think typically we're assigned ownership within the universe, things that are supposed to belong to us. I guess the universe considered the sticky notes to belong to you. Unless there was an actual entity that returned it to you, but I wonder why. What possible reason could you need to be reminded of the sticky notes? Maybe to think about your sister again? Maybe for some reason, thinking about your sister in that moment was extremely important to your overall life journey. Case notes for file 864. My wealth is linked to the universe. So this is an interesting glitch that could be mundane. It could just be a tech glitch where it's an actual anomaly within the systems we've built, not the universe. Honestly, the complexity of computers and the financial networks that we all depend on is so immensely complex that it borders on the realm of mysticism. Most people involved in it, the single person, couldn't tell you exactly how it all works. It's all an interconnected web of complexity and variables and abstraction. It's really impressive. Still, what you described should not be possible, especially given that the cards aren't even of the same country. There's entire region codes built into the card numbers. There's no way one could be confused for another, even if they were nearby each other. Even the chips themselves have built-in security measures. There's security checks that are built into the process of verification when you enter your code, or even without it. Even if it's a small purchase and it happens without entering your code, there's still back-end processes that are verifying that this is a legitimate transaction. Indeed, it really was processed as if it was your American credit card and you got a notification on your phone stating as such. So I don't know how that could happen, honestly, outside of some actual glitch in the Matrix. That the universe glitches out being more probable than an actual human tech glitch, it's kind of funny, but I think it's true. Case notes for the bonus file. The Working Man Ghost. Well, this is a complete little story. I love it. You have the wife completing your own thoughts and describing the ghost as you saw it, so you know she really did see it. Unless it's some kind of prankster imposter that's just breaking into their home and appearing as an entity and then leaving. Okay, I mean, I like prank videos, but that's taking it a bit too far. And I wouldn't place my money on that being the case. I do think it's an actual spirit. And yeah, like you said, a plumber did die there before. So I guess he's lingering on. Too many pipes to fix. And you know, I kinda wanna go watch the old Mario and Luigi movie. I know everyone thinks it's terrible, but for me it's just terrible fun, I guess you could say. I love the actor that plays Mario. He fits it very well. And you know, it's just a classic adventure movie. It doesn't have to be brilliant in its writing or anything or plot. It just has to be fun. I think we're missing fun in modern movies. Do you know what I mean? And that's yours truly, Kinetic Symphony, signing off for the night. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the videos. More to come. Case notes for file 865, Riding the Wave of Time. I'm labeling these types of glitches as universal peering, universal observation you could say as well. I think it explains a lot of glitches actually. So think about a pedestrian that's looking to cross a road, looks both ways, even multiple times, and sees nothing, and then crosses the road, and then immediately there's a car right there about to hit him. This happens quite frequently, and also for drivers. Now what's going on there? Are they just blind? They just missed the car barreling towards them? Probably not. What's probably happening is they're actually looking, but the light waves that they're receiving are from a different parallel universe. And in those universes, most things are the same, but in just one case, there's no car coming towards them. But then their perception returns to the normal world, and the light in that world says, hey, there's a car right there, you're gonna die. React. So I think it explains quite a few things, and often mundane things are mundane. I think it could also play into the role of buffered reality. So you're seeing events as they were in a different universe, but buffered ahead as well. It's all just information that's out there in various servers of the simulation. So that data could presumably enter our minds. Why not? As long as we're able to process it. Case notes for file 866, No Smoking. So first off, I would just want to say that congratulations on quitting smoking, you and your wife. Very good achievement, and you know, it's on par with being very overweight and losing the weight in terms of health improvement over the long term. You literally are saving probably a decade or more on your life. And not just that, but a better life. You know, you might live, some people live, they smoke or they're overweight and they live a long time, but they're not in good health. They can't live a full life doing what they want to do, even though they're alive. So it's not just years lived, it's better years as well. Now, as far as the glitches, well, it is entirely possible that this is all just some giant coincidence. As you say, the lighter was especially cheap, and you were opening beer cans with it, so, you know, not every synchronicity or, you know, coincidence has to be a glitch. However, if you really think about it, it does seem to be so well attuned for your life, right? Things just fall into place, and it could be the case, you know. Maybe the universe just decided that, or maybe it was just lucky on your part. And I mean, it really would be lucky in that case because it made you quit smoking. I've had it happen before where I'm listening to a podcast. The very second I walk back home into the door, the podcast is over. That's just a coincidence, I'm pretty sure. It has no real significance. It's just interesting how that happens. But that happening as well as a cigarette lighter just popping? I mean, it's pretty rare for those to explode, even if you bang them up a bit. Make of it what you will, but I'm really glad that it inspired you to quit smoking. Case notes for file 867. Visuals and audio desynchronize in real life. So I've also had moments in my life where it felt like reality wasn't exactly synced, especially in the audio department. I've always just chalked it up to being sleep deprived, as your great Kinetic Symphony often is. It is what it is. Coffee fuels me. There can certainly be cases where things aren't aligning perfectly, and we might just chalk it up towards being tired. Now, if you weren't tired or under the influence of anything, well, yeah, maybe it was just more evidence of the universe being on the fritz, at least our universe. Hopefully we switch servers soon, because seems to be a bit unstable, huh? And those are my notes for the night. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe if you did, and I'm off. Getting more coffee. Case notes for file 868. Classic quantum immortality. So, meaning that your husband didn't notice anything, somehow you're the only one who died in the car. Or he jumped as well, but to a different universe. And I've been wondering that for quite a while. People are connected by, you know, physical distance, or rather emotional connection, a bond of friendship or love. Are they then transported to the same parallel universe when they die through quantum immortality? I like to hope that they do. It's kind of neat in a way, right? If two people die, to have that universal bond baked within the universe itself. Nice. Usually the glitches I've read indicate this, but maybe not all the time. Or maybe he didn't die as well. I mean, you're in a car, but it doesn't necessarily mean if you get into a crash that both people will die. Sometimes one person does and the other doesn't. That could explain it. Case notes for the bonus file. To Tyler, the best friend in the multiverse. Wow, what a story. I just want to say first off that I'm very sorry for your loss, and really, you shouldn't blame yourself. I know it's hard not to, survivor's guilt, but it's not your fault. You were just having a decent night with your wife, and you know, like you say, you're not in that environment anymore. of partying and drinking. It's very sad what happened, it really is, but it's not your fault. I just hope you know that now. I think maybe that's what Tyler wanted you to understand. He's in a better place now and he doesn't blame you in any way. Now, as to whether this was an actual message from Tyler or just your mind conjuring up a scenario that would give you that closure that you desperately want, my gut instinct does say that it was indeed Tyler. As we're dreaming, the interface to higher dimensions, to other realms, maybe even parallel universes is more open, I guess you could say. So those would be the moments where something higher level would interact with us. Most people think that when we're dreaming, the brain calms down and winds down, but actually it's the opposite. The brain becomes more active, more engaged, trying to make sense of the prior days and weeks' events and organize them, determine what to keep in memory and what to discard, and just making sense of the world. So it is a time where there'd be moments to talk, let's say. Could all of that ensemble of chaos trying to be organized be influenced by some other entity? I think so, absolutely. And makes sense too in the way that he showed you. Through humor, crude as it may be, and through beautiful vistas of the games you used to play together. Breath of the Wild is indeed beautiful. That opening cinematic where you're shown the world that you can explore is really cool. And that's yours truly, Kinetic Symphony, signing off for the night. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the videos. More to come. Case notes for file 869, The Mysterious Echo of Time. It is peculiar that no one reacted to time repeating itself in the presentation aspect of this glitch. I'm wondering, was it only your own perception that repeated? If reality is buffered as I believe it is, then it's possible that the interface to reality could be jumbled sometimes. It's like watching a live stream where you're watching live with others, but if you pause it and then play it again or rewind it, you can recommence scenes that already happened, even though other people are still watching it live. And then you can just fast forward a bit to catch up. I think something similar like that could happen sometimes when we're facing déjà vus or even entire scenes that are just repeated. No one else reacted, so unless, it is possible that everyone experienced it as well, but they didn't want to seem crazy. So that's the other possible explanation, is that people experience glitches all the time, but they just don't want to mention because, I don't want to go to the loony bin. Understandable to an extent, right? It could also explain why there's so many accounts now, where in the past, where could you anonymously publish your experiences of weird and mysterious events? It would be hard to do. The first part of this glitch, though, is much more pronounced to me, in that it is just a pure time anomaly. Obviously, you can't shower, use the bathroom, do all that stuff in, a minute. It's just not possible. There's another story about someone that went into Subway, ordered a sandwich, and came back out in like a few seconds, even though it should at least take 2 or 3 minutes. This is that, but taken to, a higher level. Where there's no way that it only took a minute to do all that. So there was just a time anomaly. No doubt about it. Case notes are file 870. I was recognized from another world. So I've personally read at least 5 stories where people interact with each other, they never met, and yet seemingly they know each other from just past lives. Sometimes they even know details of each other's lives. Sometimes I think there's a connection to past lives, maybe other game saves where the souls are connected even though the events in the physical world aren't. However, I think in this case, the most likely explanation is quantum immortality. The person there died and was in a new universe. She didn't know that, of course, and then just approached you because in that universe she probably knows you, maybe as an acquaintance or something. In that universe you worked somewhere else in the past. That could explain how she knew you or thought she did. She did, but in a different universe, so first time's always jarring. Or, outside of glitches, maybe you just have one of those faces. Case notes for file 871. My dad, from another universe. So I think if this is quantum immortality, it's your dad that died and is now, it's still your dad, right? Just from a different universe. The blending occurred. And in that case, the fact that he's a righty, ultimately it's not about physical matter, right? If you're right or left-handed, it's just about your brain's wiring and how it uses the body. So if someone is a lefty in one universe and a righty in another, and then they fuse together, one would override the other, whichever is more dominant. Or maybe even they become ambidextrous and they don't even realize it. Maybe your dad can use his right hand as well. He just doesn't realize it. Maybe have him try to use it and who knows? He may be able to without understanding how, because he never trained it in this universe, but the copy of himself that carried over did. It's actually a very interesting concept. if we die in one universe, transposed into another body, we sort of have life experience, and whatever is different from one universe to another in terms of skills acquired or ability would be infused. There's some people that wake up one day and they're just good at math, or they're just talented in some way where they weren't the day before. What's happening in their brains to accommodate that? Well, maybe it's just their soul was infused by another one that was from a different universe that had that ability. And now they do as well. The blending occurred. It's like Piccolo fusing with Nail in Dragon Ball Z, if you ever saw the anime. They're just combined. Now, you don't have your own voice as like a second voice in your head. I don't know if there's any limit to how many times this could happen. Maybe you die very often from some singular event in many other universes, and they all occupy now you're one vessel, and now you're just this booming, powerful vessel that has so many latent potential that you may not even be aware of. Maybe you're bad at writing, or maybe you're bad at graphic design or driving, but one day you're not. And you wouldn't even know unless you tried again. So if you were bad at something in the past, maybe try it again just to see, maybe you're good now. Case notes for file 872. The mystery of the thin straw. So yeah, could this be a crossover event? Sure, it's possible. Tiny differences like the straw not being there could happen. Could be possible that it was just blown away by something, or maybe someone else took it. The theft of a straw isn't exactly the most mind-blowing thing, but who knows. I do think we're switching universes very frequently, so it's within the realm of possibility, one of the cards that could be played by the universe. Either way, she eventually was able to enjoy the shake, so nice. And those are my notes for the night. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe if you did, and I'm off. Getting more coffee.